Good morning. I am thrilled, unbelievably happy to be here with Julie Roehm on Talk Back for Change. Julie, how are you?
Oh, Rick, it's such a delight to see you again. As we discussed, it's been many a year since we looked each other in the eye, even in a digital world. And so it's so lovely to be invited on your beautiful show.
And for my audience, Julie's going to tell us a little bit about what she's been doing, but a lot of us met her when she was at Fourth Wall Media, and I think I can honestly say that she's probably the smartest marketing person I've ever met. So
Wow, that's
so there
huge.
you go.
Oh,
All right,
geez.
so you were at BIP. I never knew what that stood
But
for. What?
brain in a pan.
What?
That's not kidding.
What?
BIAP, that's what BIAP stood for. The founders of it were rocket scientists from Houston,
Yeah.
literally that group. And they used to talk about like being the smartest people in the room. And as happens with rocket scientists and people who are, it's like the Big Bang Theory, like that group of people, like when they start to go, the ideas they came up with are like, we're going to come up with this amazing tool that, helps media, helps play. It basically was trying to create the black box we had been all searching for our whole lives in media
Yeah.
and the media plan. We're going to be able to do this by collecting all this data. And it's like a brain in a pan. It's like a brain in a pan, like your brain pan. It's like a brain in a pan. And they created BIAP. That was what when they changed the name, thankfully, to Fourth Wall Media.
I worked I published a magazine for DirecTV, good Lord, a long time ago. And working with those folks and actually, the DirecTV folks, they were rocket scientists.
Uh-huh.
They kept launching those damn birds to give us, TV to watch. So I understand how those cultures can change. Okay, quickly, when you left BIAP,
Mhm.
which then became Fourth Wall Media. You knocked around a little bit. Where'd you go after that?
I went to SAP.
Okay.
So I was at SAP for 5 years as their chief storyteller, which was what the title the CEO gave me. He brought me, and they were doing a ton of acquisitions, Concur and Ariba and Success Factors and some of those brands, and needed to start to talk about what they did in a way that would be more relevant to a CHRO or a CMO, people that weren't in IT. And therefore, the white papers that make you want to claw your eyes out weren't going to be as helpful. So that was part of what I did, helping change the culture about how we talk about it, how we sell, and we were moving to the cloud. That was the moving from on-prem to cloud
Yeah.
era as well. So lots of need to have like it was a marketing role, but he called a chief storyteller. And I was there 5 years, and then I left there, and my best friend from the automotive industry had become CEO of actually, while I was at SAP, she'd become CEO of a little through TPG, a little rideshare company called Ride. I was on her board. We sold that to Enterprise Rental Car. She was picked up by Hellman and Freeman, another PE firm, to be CEO of a really sexy company called Abra Auto Body and Glass that owns 600 collision shops around the country. And she
Okay.
called me. I was still at SAP because that's when I was on her board. And she said, "Hey, would you leave your cool global sexy job at SAP and come be an even better like title and be my chief experience officer." It was I
Ooh.
created the X
Ooh.
part, but it was CMO of 600 body shops. I was like, sign me up. It
Yeah.
was it was like a Harvard business case in the making, truly. And I'd done the big public companies. It was wonderful. I couldn't tell you how great my experience was. And Bill McDermott is really truly one of my favorite people. But this was an opportunity to do something that I thought was digitally transformative. This was in 2017. Taking an industry that had really like the whole digital revolution had completely passed it by. You think about you get in an accident, you call your insurance, you got to call a collision shop, you got to bring it over. It's a written estimate. You
Yeah.
got to call the car rental. None of it's connected digitally. You can't schedule your appointment online. You can't check your progress on all those things are what we did. Sold that very successfully 18 months later to our largest competitor. I was giddy because of all the equity you get from those kinds of things. And then I was doing our integration with the big company that had bought us for a few months to help them out. And one of our independent board members pulled me aside and said, "Julie, would you consider going back to a public company?" I'm like, "Are you cracked? Like you just saw what we did. Are you?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm chairman of Party City, and we're going to be doing this transformation and turnaround, and we would really could use you. We're going to bring in a new CEO. I said, well, call me when he gets there and I'll chat with him and see if we gel. Brad Weston started in August of 19. He and I met about 10 days later. I heard his vision to move us from a SKU-based seller to a solution-based seller, which sung to me in terms of like the consumer experience and the digital transformation and all of those things, as well as integrating us from a B2B and B2C, because we manufactured 80% of what we sold and wholesaled it as well. And there was so much to unlock there. And I was like, great. He was very upfront. We're debt laden. I knew this, a lot of debt, but we're working with our debt holders to build this 3-year runway so we can put off those big interest payments and then be able to really turn the company around, build that cash flow so that we can come out stronger and really hit the ground running in 3 years. And that's our runway. I was like, I love it. I believe, let's go. It's great. And so I signed the papers and started December 1st of 2019. And so less than my 100-day mark in, of course,
COVID.
our entire world shut down. And I was just couldn't have been happier to been at a party company at the beginning of a pandemic. Because what goes better than party and pandemic, right? What could be a better match? So it was like, whoa, you could hear you could see the iceberg coming. Like I was like, oh God, what did I just sign up for? But we were a team, we were committed to making the best of it. We actually did some really awesome things I was so proud of. And truly our top line grew tremendously. We turned things around. Our bottom line grew, but unfortunately, between the pandemic, the supply chain, it didn't grow enough. We couldn't overcome the big cost bases that was hitting us, and
Yep.
you could just see the song like fading out. And so I left at the end of 22. I'm not a kind of a cutter. There's a lot of people who are really good at coming in and cutting and
Yeah, yeah,
taking
yeah.
down and going to the kind of bare bones. And
That's not you.
I'm a growth person. That's not where my heart is. There's better people at it than me for that. So I left at the end of 22, and I've been consulting ever since. But in that time period, my dad was sick and had gotten stage 4 kidney disease, had been on dialysis 2.5 years. We finally were able to get him on a transplant list. And of course, being a marketer, he was like, I'm going to need you to help market because I want to try to see if anybody would be a living donor. And I said, well, Dad, I'm happy to do that, but I don't feel comfortable doing that for you until I get tested. Because what do I go out? Hey, people, like, sign up. I don't want to test and do it myself, but maybe you do.
Right, right.
So I was a match. And so in April of 22, so just a little over 2 years ago, we did that. And thankfully he's doing well. He's had, very successful. I'm doing well physically, but I was at a National Kidney Foundation gala that I was invited to in the city, New York City, last fall. And some of the board members there pulled me aside and said, hey, we heard about what you did with your dad, because a friend of mine, Nada Stewart, who used to be at Meta, had done a podcast on lots of things Kidney Foundation, but I was one of her guests to discuss my experience. And so that's why I was invited to this gala. And they voluntold me, is what they said, that I was going to be a board member. So I joined last fall on the advisory board for the National Kidney Foundation. And so I spent a great deal of my time this past year in 23, while I kind of went back into consulting as I seek out my new next thing. Also diving in and trying to give through the NKF and help with fundraising and education and awareness.
I really like that. Okay, now you and I talked a little bit before we got started about how do we get people's attention about kidney disease and the National Kidney Foundation. My kidneys are fine. Everybody I know has kidneys that are fine. Why should I pay attention? In reality, the numbers are a whole lot more serious than we give them credit for, aren't they?
It is crazy. There's some, and thankfully we had an event in Greenwich last night, and the actual CEO of the NKF, of the National Kidney Foundation, lives in Greenwich, Connecticut. And so he was there, myself and another woman who's on our advisory board and is also a donor. And Kevin, who's the CEO, he's a recipient. So we were talking about this, but I had Kevin offer a few facts, and thankfully they're fresh. So I've got them in my head. But 1 in 7 people have CKD, chronic kidney disease. 1 in 7. That is a very big percentage, and one that actually shocked me. 1 in 3 people are at risk for this. Um, 14,000 people die every year waiting for a kidney transplant. And about my fourth fun fact for you that's not very fun is about 25% of all viable deceased kidneys. So I was a living donor. There's
Yep.
deceased donors, as we know. Deceased donors, those kidneys are thrown away while 14,000 individuals die because they can't get a kidney.
They're
So there's
thrown away because the donor didn't check off the box on their driver's license,
that's
essentially, right?
one, yes. And also it could be that they're not, it was damage, or it could have been that there was maybe they had
Yeah.
kidney stones or something. There could have been, it wasn't a
But in
viable
terms
kidney,
of
but
things that people could do right
oh, a
now,
huge
it's
number
sort of
is
check the box.
an organ donor. Yes. The other that we talk about, and I could fill an hour of this, and we're going to keep this tight, but I want to give a few things I think there's a lot of misconceptions about with kidney donation. First of all, we can talk, and we can do that next. I won't cover that now, but about the process of being a donor, I can talk about that and what it's like versus what I think people's perceptions are. But the other is that so Megan, Megan Connolly, she's actually an on-air talent for the WWE. So
Okay.
she's on the advisory panel, and she donated, but she donated through the voucher program. So her boss's wife had kidney disease, and she's very young. She's in her late 20s. Megan is, not the wife. And she said, I want to help Margaret, and I want to donate my kidney. They called, she got tested, she was not a match. And she did some more research, and she found that even if you're not a match, you can donate your kidney. And then through what's called their voucher program, you get a voucher for having donated your kidney, and you give your voucher to whom you want. And that then moves
Moves
that
them up the
individual,
list.
that's right, to the top of the list. And
Oh
that's
my
what she
heavens.
did. That's what she did.
That's the
So
most brilliant thing I've ever heard.
isn't that great? And so if you have, and there's a lot of reasons people are like, oh no, and this is where we can get into what it is to give your kidney. But, I know many people who are like, I don't want to die with two healthy kidneys. I don't want to die. It's not a life decision, but if you feel passionate, there are ways that you can donate, and you can direct your donation, even if you're not a match, to somebody that you want to get to the top of the line. And if you're worried about, well, hey, what if I have an accident? I need a kidney, and I've given my kidney, and then my one good kidney goes kaput. You know, every donor, if there's an issue that comes up with their kidney, is immediately put at the top of the donation list
Okay.
if the need arises.
All
So
right,
you are completely
Julie,
taken.
we're gonna run out of time. Here's a
Yeah,
real important thing.
yeah,
We have a lot of media professionals watching this.
yeah.
Where can they go? What can they do right now when they see this show?
Okay, first of all, to your earlier point, Rick, sign up to be an organ donor. Just
Okay.
upon death, right? And this doesn't mean.
Click the
Two,
box. Yep.
click the
Check the box.
box. Right. Two, go to the nkf.org. You can go to the National Kidney Foundation organization, the .org site. There are resources there. We have a peer-to-peer network. I do phone calls with people, right, probably one a week, with people who are either considering donating, are about to donate. I've done things so much as they're like, women, they want to see their scar. I've taken pictures of my scars so they can see. I'll go through any nitty gritty. They can, any question you have. If you're somebody who's sick and you need a good nephrologist, you need to find a hospital. Every resource is there, formal and informal, that helps guide you. Go there. My third thing I would say is, please talk about this.
Yeah,
We talk about heart disease and breast cancer and prostate. We talk about these other things, which are important things. I am not minimizing. But given that 1 in 3 people are at risk, there are so many, it is such an important component, and so much can be done to prevent getting to the point of needing a transplant through diet, through exercise, and through education. And it starts at a very young age. And there are many people born with one kidney, and those people often have to be much more thoughtful about how they live their
sure.
life. You don't have to make big changes, but there's so many different resources on the site. I would say go there and just talk about it. Ask
Okay.
people.
We're going to close this right now, but the one thing I want people to know, I'm not going to publish your email address, but I'm going to put a link to your LinkedIn page.
Yes.
Okay. And people can ping you there, find you there, link to you there, send you a message. And if they want to get involved, they can do it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd love it. And I'll answer any questions anybody has about the process.
Kind of knew you would do that. All right. Julie Roehm, thank you for your time. This has been Talk Back for Change, and we'll see everybody again next week.